Hello, today we're going to create an artwork called Heritage Mason Jars. You will need an 11 by 14 inch mixed media paper, copy paper, the size you want for jars, pencil eraser, scissors, watercolors, water, paintbrush, and Prismacolors. You might also want these mason jar drawings that you can find on my YouTube description. First, you're going to make your own tracers. I use the pieces of paper that I cut the size that I want the jars. Fold it in half carefully. Draw the half of the jar with the fold in the center of the jar. Add your details on that half and then carefully cut around. When you open it up, you've got a full jar. I made several of these. You need to make the ones that you want. You might make a couple extra ones so that you have it to play with when you start laying it out. These are the jars that I ended up making. You can see the measurements are on the top and the side of what I actually used. Now to choose your arrangement. Lay the jars out until you like what you see. Next you'll be tracing the jars and then drawing the details on it. Very carefully trace your jars. It's okay if they overlap a little bit. And then start drawing in the details of the jars. Always remember to draw softly with your drawings. That way you can erase easily. Now for the fun part, we're going to be painting the jars. You're going to choose the color you want. The jars can come in many colors. We just want to work lightly. So on the lid, I added a lot of water and then a little bit of paint. I'm going to build up the color. I do not want to start with it dark. I'm starting with a light coat. Now I'm getting this a little bit darker, adding a little more blue, and along the edges where the glass is going to be the thickest, you're going to add a little bit more dark blue. Darken around the neck and then on the mouth and the screw part. Also down at the bottom at that little hill. For all my jars I'm going to be working with shades of blue, but I'm kind of adding a little green to this one to make it kind of a bluish green color. Again, start with a very light coat. You can always add more color. Once you've done your first coat, darken your color and then add it around the edges and the neck. I didn't paint the top part because I want this to be the lid. So I'm going to take some water, add a little bit of black so I get a gray. I'm going to paint a light coat of gray on the whole jar. Then I'm going to go back, I'm going to darken up that gray, and I'm going to start adding my shadow areas along the sides and the edges and around the inside of that circle. I also darken around each of the screw parts and then those little lines. While I have the light gray, I also went back and add a little bit more shadows to the jars. Now for the third jar. I'm adding blue to that, but I'm going to put a little bit of purple to create an indigo. I'm going to start with the very first coat being very, very light. Because the other jar is dry, I can paint right over it and it'll look like one jar is in front of the other. Now I'm darkening up that color with a little more blue and a little more purple, and then I'm going to go around where all the glass is thick. Next we're going to paint the wood table. So I'm doing the same kind of thing like I did with the jars. I'm going to paint from left to right horizontally. I'm going to make towards the back a little bit darker and then towards the front a little bit lighter. I do want to see the lines because I want it to have kind of a wood grain to it. Now I'm getting a little bit darker brown and I'm going to add a little bit of details to the back and then a little bit down at the bottom under the jars to give it a little bit of shadows. Many of your mason jars are going to have details or patterns on the jar. This is where we're going to add that. I'm writing the word ball. I'm going to get my blues, a darker blue. I'm going to paint a line around it and then I add water on the outside of it to blend that into the main part of the glass. I'm going to go all the way around the B and then on the inside part I will blend it towards the inside. I want the main part of the letter to be the lightest color. One last spot I missed in that middle jar. Now we're ready for Prismacolors. We're going to use this to sharpen the details on our drawings. I'm going to go all around the outside edges. I'm going to shade a little bit in. I had the lines around there to make it more of a 3D effect. I continue doing this on all 3 jars until I have it nice and crisp and clean and looking more 3-dimensional. You may like your jars just as they are, or you may want to add some flowers to it. I'm going to add some flowers to this first jar. I'm using my Prismacolors to do this. Prismacolors have a little bit richer effect that you can get on your artwork. I'm doing a yellow flower because it complements the blue of the jars. And I also add a little bit of orange to add my shadows in there. Make sure you do some of your flowers that are at an angle, not necessarily just straight on. This gives it more of a realistic effect. I add several leaves in there. I'm even at the end going to add just some long lines of thin green, which kind of fills in the jar a little bit. Well, that's it. I've enjoyed teaching you how to draw these mason jars. I hope you had a good time.